I'm not going to guarantee no championship. I'll tell you that. I'm just trying to do the best I can.
Oh, blocked by James!
Cleveland! This is for you!
Laker Nation want their respect. I want my damn respect, too.
LeBron James is now the all-time leading scorer.
This is one of the long-term dreams I always had.
To be able to be along my son has been one of the most gratifying journeys.
The first father-son duo in an NBA game. To the cutting James. Oh, look out! The legend of LeBron continues to grow. Who else but the king?
One thing I always say, don't never let somebody tell you you can't achieve something. Don't never let nobody tell you that.
A record 23rd year with plenty of milestones left on the board here for LeBron James. He's just 2 3-pointers away from passing Reggie Miller for 6th all-time. LeBron can also move into the top 3 in assists this year, 508 from moving past Jason Kidd. And he can also become the all-time leader in made field goals. He's 350 away from passing Querim, and also games played, 50 away from passing Robert Parrish for that all-time mark. And so for a little bit more on LeBron James, I'd like to bring in our reporter covering the Lakers, Dave McMenamin, who's out at their practice facility right now. Dave, we know that LeBron, he didn't participate in yesterday's practice or the opening day of training camp, really, and we didn't hear from him after that. What more can you tell us about the plan for him for when we can expect him to be out there with his teammates?
Yeah, Malik, he's not going to be setting any statistical milestones in the preseason, I don't think. He has been ruled out for the time being with nerve irritation in his glute. Now, I'm told that this is a situation that Lakers believe and LeBron James's camp believes that with rest and therapy, he can overcome it. We have about 3 weeks until opening night, and kind of the thought process for everyone involved right now is let's get him right for when the curtain comes up on the season. That doesn't mean at this point that the full preseason is completely ruled out, but certainly he will not play in the Lakers preseason debut Friday against the Suns, sources tell me. And it's going to be taking the long approach to the entire season because this is uncharted waters. There's never been a guy to play 23 years, and they want to be able to have him ready to play his best basketball come April through June if the Lakers can put a run together.
Can we start calling best basketball basketball? Does that work as well? Dave, thank you so very much for your insight there. Basketball on the tip-off of preseason. That's for the 76ers and Knicks. They're going to play in Abu Dhabi. Jalen Brunson, Karl Anthony Towns, Paul George, Joel Embiid, and the Sixers fully immersing themselves in the culture out there. This is the second time the NBA has held a preseason game in Abu Dhabi. And with the Knicks and the Sixers there, so is our worldwide Brian Windhorst, our senior writer. Brian, how's it going out there? This is what, like the 5th different country you've joined us from?
I don't know, but this is the 3rd straight year I've been in Abu Dhabi. They love the NBA here, and it's really become a home away from home for the league. We've seen
Abu Dhabi, Lille. There's a whole bunch of places we just showed that you have joined us from. But we are 24 hours away from tip-off of preseason basketball in the NBA. What are the plans for former MVP Joel Embiid this preseason? I imagine all eyes are on that, even in Abu Dhabi.
Yeah, you're not going to see him here in Abu Dhabi. He was not a full participant in practice. Paul George was doing more in practice coming off his off-season knee surgery, but he is not going to play here in Abu Dhabi. All in all, you might see about a handful of Sixers players from their core not available. Just today, the 76ers announced that Jared McCain had surgery on his torn thumb ligament that he suffered last week. Sometimes seems like there's a day that goes by where they don't have bad news. But the good news is VJ Edgecombe, their high draft pick from last summer, and Tyrese Maxey are out on the court, are working on their chemistry. Already, Edgecombe has really impressed his teammates with his shooting. His athleticism is already off the charts. So if you're going to look for something as a 76er fan, get excited about your first-round draft pick and your all-star Tyrese Maxey.
I want to bring our front office insider Bobby Marks into the conversation. I don't want to pour a wet blanket on the 76er season already, but darn it, we're having this conversation again about all of these key players that aren't going to be able to participate in tomorrow's preseason game, Bobby. As someone who has worked in these front offices, how are you digesting this?
Oh, you want to feel good for the Sixers, but as we say in the offseason, it's supposed to be the honeymoon period. Everyone's supposed to love their roster, but it feels like we're in a reverse time machine back to last year with the Joel Embiid uncertain timeline. Certainly Paul George. Brian mentioned Jared McCain is going to be out at least 4 to 6 weeks. However, VJ Edgecombe, I guess VJ we trust moving forward, and you do still have Tyrese Maxey, but Malika, there is so much uncertainty as far as where this Sixers roster is going to go in a wide open Eastern Conference, and as we said last year, a lot of it's going to be reliant on the health of Joel Embiid and Paul George.
That is going to be the story of the 76ers here for the foreseeable future, with both of those guys locked into these long-term deals. But since we're talking about a wide-open Eastern Conference, let's get to the other side of this matchup, because we know the New York Knicks, they're hoping to capitalize on that, right? They started training camp. They also had some time to ride some camels, by the way. That's OG Anunoby and Patrick Ewing out in the desert getting a little camel ride there. Some bonding time in Abu Dhabi. I had the chance to ride camels in Morocco. I'm a horseback riding girl, but I didn't do that.
I didn't buy.
You know, that was it? All right. Well, I am enjoying seeing Patrick Ewing do it. Let's talk about the Knicks starters' minutes, right? They played 940 minutes together in the regular season last year. By far, the most in the NBA. In fact, the Timberwolves' primary starters were the only other unit with over 500 minutes. So, Monica, I'm not going to ask you about riding camels, but you do call the Knicks games. You're on the broadcast during the season. Your biggest question for New York, knowing their lofty goals for this year, is what?
Yeah, I just want to see what a Mike Brown system looks like, honestly, right? You just mentioned the minutes. I mean, that was certainly something that was signature to this team last season. Mike Brown historically has played faster. I know that has been discussed a lot. I think there's going to be more depth consistently in terms of guys getting an opportunity to get into the rotation. And then, Malika, for me, it's not just last season, but you go back to the season prior to that. This team's defensive identity is one that I'm looking forward to seeing how it evolves, because even if you go back the last 2 seasons, there's quite the juxtaposition in those 2 seasons as well, but they still were able to have a tremendous amount of success.
Yeah, that's a good point. You might say Mike Brown, a huge off-season addition when you're looking at a New York Knicks team that largely brought back that same roster. I'm curious about Mike Brown saying that the 5th starter hasn't been decided yet. That's something that I'm going to be watching in the preseason. Brian, what are you hearing from the Knicks side of things out in Abu Dhabi?
First off, let me tell you how much the Knicks enjoyed their desert experience last night. They were all talking about it. They all, that is something that they don't normally start the season off of. They really enjoyed it. I will say that we got to watch some of practice here in Abu Dhabi today, and Mike Brown is really focusing on the offense, like Monica and you guys mentioned. Showing them extra film before the practice started, going over their offensive system. They really want to have a more dynamic offense this year that doesn't rely as much on Jalen Brunson. That is not anything against Brunson. They're just wanting to play for a long season. And look, part of the reason he got this job was that he told the Knicks front office he was going to play his bench more. He said, get me more bench depth. I will play that bench. That is what they intend to do. Gerson Yabusele was here today, one of their big offseason pickups. He's playing against his former team in the 76ers. Jordan Clarkson out on the court today at practice. Another guy they want to play. Malcolm Brogdon, a guy expected to be part of the rotation, also playing out here. So they are healthy, and they are going to use that depth from day one starting tomorrow.
Malika, for me, it's Mitchell Robinson. I think what we can get from Mitchell Robinson last year, certainly we saw it in that Boston and Indiana series. Remember a year ago, we were wondering when Mitchell Robinson was going to come back from that injury, and he didn't come back until the end of February. And when you're looking at the potential 5th starter, is it Josh Hart or Mitchell Robinson? I would keep our eyes on Robinson here. I had an opportunity to sit with his agent, Thad Boucher, last week in LA. He told me he's in the best shape of his career right now. His weight is down. He is healthy, and most important, he is in a contract year. Something certainly to keep an eye on.
A little extra motivation there maybe, but that's music to Knicks fans' ears that Mitchell Robinson in the best shape of his life. Before we go to break, Brian, real quick, you mentioned Josh Hart, Bobby, potentially being in the mix for that starting spot. How's everything with his finger?
He is going to fight through that finger injury. They're going to use a splint starting in this game tomorrow.
Okay.
But more than the finger, like Bobby said, I think Josh Hart wants to start. He verbalized that at Media Day a couple of days ago. He wants to make a case for that. That case begins with Mike Brown's new system starting tomorrow night against the Sixers. And look, they know that Josh Hart is going to play hard no matter when he's out there. but that's another player who they've got to watch his minutes. They want to protect their entire frontline rotation, not just Jalen Brunson.
Right, and you know what? The best competition, sometimes a little internal competition.
Yeah, and I would just add on the starting mark, I think it's great. Both of these gentlemen should want to start, but I think one of the things that I got from this group a lot at Media Day is the power of the chemistry that is already established. So however the starter plays out, it might not be the starter for the entire season. It could change. I think the needs of this team under this system will dictate. But both of those guys are coming in with great attitudes going into the season.
That's a great point, sort of the situational lineups necessarily based on.
Jimmy coming on this team, it changed the life of this team.
Y'all know who he is.
Jimmy buckets.
He's a superstar.
The franchise changing.
Winning's always good. Winning makes chemistry look even better.
Butler back to Curry. He'll fire again. He got another one.
Help is officially on the way for Steph, Jimmy, and the Golden State Warriors. Restricted free agent Jonathan Kuminga has agreed to a 2-year, $48.5 million deal to return to the Golden State Warriors. This was first reported by our senior insider, Shams Charania. Now, Kuminga, he missed Media Day on Monday and the first day of Warriors practice on Tuesday as the sides finalized this deal. So let's bring in the man who broke the news, our very own Shams. Shams, this has been a long summer of a stalemate back and forth between these two sides. How did they finally come to this agreement?
Malika, the Warriors moved up a few millions of dollars, at least in the last few weeks of these negotiations. But the bottom line was that Jonathan Kuminga did not want to go through with the qualifying offer, and the Warriors didn't want him to go through with it either. And Jonathan Kuminga pushed for a player option throughout the summer. These sides were at a stalemate. The Warriors never budged. They stayed with their team option deal. So Kuminga here chooses a 2-year framework instead of the 3-year, $75 million deal with a team option because he feels it gives him more control. But Malika, the reality is both sides understand that trade talks are inevitable as soon as Kuminga is eligible to be moved in mid-January. And so I compared this to a divorce before sides staying together for the kids. And they're going to put their best foot forward, but this has the makings of a tenuous and potentially tumultuous relationship even as they start off here in the next few weeks.
What a metaphor. So we're kind of in mediation right now if we're going with that divorce metaphor here ahead of that January 15th eligibility for Jonathan Kuminga to be traded. But Shams, you report that Kuminga and the Golden State Warriors agree to this deal. All right, I get that notification. And then I get like 6 more back to back to back. It unlocked the floodgates here for the Golden State Warriors. How different does the roster look now?
Malika, in the span of 48 hours, the Warriors have essentially rounded out their entire 15-man roster. Jonathan Kuminga, Al Horford, DeAnthony Melton, Gary Payton II, Will Richard, and their 15th man this season will be Seth Curry. I'm told the Warriors signed him to a 1-year deal. Seth Curry and Steph Curry will be on the floor together this season as teammates. They'll be the 23rd set of brothers to play together on the same team in NBA history. There will be some cap machinations related to Seth Curry in the coming weeks, in the coming month. But for all intents and purposes, he will be on this roster as the 15th man. Him and Steph Curry will be on the floor together throughout this season.
I love that. I just love a story of two brothers being able to come together. We know at this point in Steph Curry's career, you've won a bunch of championships, league MVPs, finals MVPs. Being able to play with your brother, that's something that is incredibly special. Shams, thank you very much for that insight here on the Golden State Warriors. So as Shams mentioned, this is how the Warriors roster looks now that it seems to be locked in here for training camp. And this is how their depth chart, it will likely look heading into the regular season here. As of course, they have a couple of injuries and things through the preseason, but this is how we expect it to look heading into the regular season. So Brian Windhorst, it took a while, but now the Warriors, they have made their moves. What do you make of the Warriors offseason, and what do folks around the league say?
Well, this is a team that finished last season very strongly. They got sidetracked in the playoffs when Steph had suffered a hamstring injury. They still believe if that hadn't happened, they might have been able to make it to the Western Conference Finals. They want to now try to build on that success, and getting Kuminga in the fold is important. The one area where this team was really vulnerable last year was in the big man position. Even though they had success playing small, they weren't able to match up at times with other people's size. And that's why going out and getting Al Horford was important. I know he just signed, but he's been committed to the Warriors for months. That was a major offseason priority for them. And so he is going to bring championship experience and versatility, which will fit on this roster very well. that is as much of a pickup for them as making sure Kuminga was on a contract that was comfortable for them to have maneuverability in the future.
All right, let's talk about this Kuminga contract a little bit here, Bobby, because I know everyone watching at home is saying, all right, we've been hearing about this back and forth for months and months now. What does this actually mean now that Kuminga is signed? We're hearing that potentially he could be on the move again. It sounds like this is a contract that he made betting on himself. Am I reading that correctly?
No, you're right. I mean, let's put yourself in the shoes of Mike Dunleavy Jr., the GM in Golden State. 24 hours ago, he was looking at a roster or salary cap ledger of 3 players: Stephen Curry, Draymond